music, and me and Marshall have been in the same scene for 10 or 15 years, something like that. So we kind of just know each other from being in bands around, playing shows and stuff. And that's it. I'm just another songwriter.
What kind of songs do you write?
So tough. Like I just released an album and they make you choose. Like when you go through and do the things, they make you choose. And I'm like, none of these. I don't know. I don't know. It's like I'm trying to make pop music. I just fail.
Charlie does have an album that came out today that's really incredible, and you should all.
I know. I've been listening. It's fantastic.
Oh, thanks.
What's your album on?
Just electronically, this one. Okay. So all the sites where you would normally find things, I tend to use Bandcamp as like the home base that like I would prefer if people went on Bandcamp and got it. You just make it available on anything that anybody normally uses because they're gonna give you about 5 seconds chance, and if you have to give them one extra step to do, they're done. Most people. So, well, I don't know about you guys, but I have found like I'm on fire right now. Like I'm so passionate about writing song and collaborating with people right now because literally this is kind of what I did before 2 or 3 weeks ago anyways, was just like find as much time as I can to get in my room and make as much music as possible. And now everybody's free to also make music just for fun. And we have, of course, we have everything we need to collaborate with everybody all the time. As long as you've got a computer, you can get some free software and whatever, you know what I'm saying? Go crazy. So I collaborated with Marshall on something. He made a video for a song I was making, but I'm collaborating with like 15 people right now that just started up in the past 2 weeks because they're looking for something to do. But I also hear of a lot of people that are like have lost all motivation to do anything. Do you guys find yourselves in one camp or the other on that, or is it kind of like life is the same, or what?
At the beginning, I was really motivated, and it's just kind of started to drag on me.
I think I'm in a similar position.
My sister started a songwriting challenge with a bunch of her.
Oh yeah, I saw that. That was cool.
Yeah, with a bunch of her musician friends. If you guys want to join and are on Facebook, I can add you guys. And so her and her boyfriend randomly generate a word, and then you have 90 minutes to write a song or a verse or a chorus or whatever you can get done. So my dad and I do that every week, and it's so nice because then like it feels very productive, and to have a window where it's scheduled where everyone's doing it gives a lot of motivation. And then personally, my life has been like a telenovela this past quarantine period, so I've had a lot of material to finally like write about, so it's been nice to have that time at home.
Like when Marshall asked me to do this, I got really excited because basically just describing what the process looks like for me and why it's so exciting the whole time. I always start with absolutely nothing. Some people find some track or something and they start there, and that's totally cool, but that's just never been my thing. I always just wanted to start from scratch. Well, I had Pro Tools first. Not first, but like somewhere in there, like when I was getting serious about recording and finishing songs and stuff, I got Pro Tools. And then at one point, somebody just suggested Ableton to me, and that was the one that stuck for me. What's so interesting is whatever I start with usually is not in the final product at all. It's just a jumping off point, and it's I'll start building on top of that, and by the time the building or whatever is done, that first brick has been replaced with a different brick anyway. If I'm doing a good job, then I don't care what I start with, and I make just whatever, and then basically the rest of the time I'm just figuring out what's wrong with it and fixing it. And I'm sure that other people do it differently, but that's just always how I look at everything in life. And I'm not saying this is like a good thing, but this is just, I notice how I look at things is like, I could fix that about it. I could fix this and this and this. I'm not too much into like, this is great. I really, I'm like, until these things are fixed, I'm not going to be really enjoying anything I'm doing here. So that's the rest of the process. And that takes a year, or it takes 4 years or whatever, to just fix all the problems with it. And the process of that is just all the exciting moments of my life. They're like the top 1 million moments. They'd all be the same thing. Me unlocking some new level or something. It's like there's something blocking. There's like a dam and a river. There's a river that wants to flow, and there's some dam that's in the way. And then at one point, all the sticks or whatever just kind of decoalesce or whatever, and the river starts flowing again. And when that release happens, those are the best moments of my life for sure. No question about it. I remember when I started, I was like so bored. One day in high school, I go in this closet. My mom's guitar like falls on my head. All right, I guess I'll just try this out, but I know there's no way that I would ever do it for like a living or whatever. I remember saying that to myself, and then of course that was totally wrong. Who writes lyrics? Like, does everybody write lyrics, or does some people just write chords or a riff or whatever and then bring it to the band? Does everybody write lyrics or what?
In local channels, I write most of the lyrics, but that's kind of been changing recently. Our songwriting process has mostly been I figure out something on the guitar and then I bring it, and then basically everybody has their parts and we like rework it as a group.
Well, I think if there's anything that the four of you guys can do right now, it's to make a bunch of garbage. Just
We're already doing that before
great.
this, so
Pass it around to each other. Be like, look at this steaming hot piece of garbage. You want to do something with this piece of trash? Go for it. And the point being, like, it's not. You don't have to worry about the outcome of any of this stuff. Maybe I'm just speaking to myself. Maybe you guys don't have the same issues that I have in writing, but I think it's apparent that one of my things is I'm concerned about the outcome. What's going to be the end result? Who's going to listen to it? What are they going to think of it? And what's it going to get for me, kind of? Which is, I'm very sure is a completely wrong way to think about making music, but it's a part of me, so it comes up all the time. But what I suggest for you guys is just fail over and over and over. And you have nothing but time to fail right now. And if you don't like it, if you work for hundreds of hours on something and it's a fail and you throw it in the trash, fine, just throw it in the trash. It doesn't matter at all. Nobody is clamoring for anything from you. I mean, maybe you guys are different because you're younger, but at my age, it kind of feels like you give them one song or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're interested in like trying to get people's attention, just do the one. Me and Marshall grew up when it made sense to make an album or a double disc or whatever, and now it's kind of like 45-second single should do it. If I was jumping off Caroline's sister's idea, it would be just collaborate with absolutely anybody you can think of that does anything, and just pass it around. Just make a bunch of garbage, because failing it's like what I do best. And if you're good at failing, I just think that's the right way to do it. I don't know. It'll probably fail like the rest of them, and that's fine. I'll just enjoy making it, and then whatever the outcome is, that's out of my hands. I out of my control, can't do anything about it, so I'm just gonna forget it. I definitely know after all these years, I'm definitely very successful. It may be all inwardly. It may be that it's all just a series of discoveries I've made about myself, and that's the only result that'll come out of these many, many years of making music. But I'm definitely winning. You can take my word on that. So back to this process. So this last album, which I've never really made a full-length album, or I haven't in a long time, and there was no real reason to do it, but that's what the music decided was going to happen, so that's what I'm doing. But I started with, over the series of like 2 weeks, I just made a bunch of garbage for 2 weeks straight, would work on something for 4 or 5 hours and then just put it down and not think about it again. And then after a month's time of listening to all those seeds that I have, just letting some of them die, just like growing a garden and weeding them out or whatever. And eventually there were 10 that felt like these should be finished. And then I herded them all together at the same time. So all the lyrics are they're all kind of connected, and they were all toddlers together, and then they were all junior high students together. And then they all died on the mixing room floor together. They all reached old age and died. What's so special is that each album becomes easier and easier to do, even though it gets more and more complex. It's just that river is flowing more and more freely, or the album is like floating on a river, and it just finishes itself. And that's just the most beautiful thing I can think. Like I said, top million moments of my life. That's what they are. When just the right word with just the right vowel sounds and just the right consonants lands on just the right chord at exactly the right time, and everything, all these different things just lock it. This is what was waiting to happen, and then I just allowed it to happen. And those are just, it's just so special when that happens. So again, nobody lets me talk about this that I'm with, so I'm kind of just gushing about it right now, but that's how I feel. Well, does anybody have any questions or anything or comments?
I had a question. So when you're going about like producing an album, do you find it best for you to have one project or one track you're working on at a time, or do you like to sort of diversify it and mix or play around with one and then come back to another one? Or
it's usually the latter, and it's just to what extremes that happens. Like, is it okay if a song takes 7 years to get finished because you just kept putting it down and forgetting it? It's totally okay. I mean, this last one was the first time that I even kept it within a year time frame, and before that it was like songs get just finished at whatever time and whatever. But since this album finished, since I finished this one, the next thing I've been doing is completely finishing one song.
And well, I mean, when did you, how long have you been doing that, the new process for you?
That one started maybe 3 months ago or something. And I'm not purely following it, but I did take this one song that I made another 2.5 weeks of seeds of just songs that, are garbage or whatever. And then one of them, after 2.5 weeks, one of them was like, this one has legs. I'm going to green light this one. And so then I just kind of did the whole thing, and that takes maybe 150 hours, something like that, of just tinkering and fixing things that are wrong. And now and then I set it down because we were in quarantine and I didn't feel like it was respectful to like get a drummer, because the next part of the process, sorry. So I make a full demo, and then I'm always going to need drums. When I start in Ableton, I make the bass and the key. I make everything. And sometimes I get pretty detailed with the drums, but other times I'm like, I'm going to make a very simple drum pattern here just because I know I'm going to get a drummer in here to make this into a rock song, which is what Gage should hopefully understand. You're just not doing rock unless you've got a drummer playing an acoustic kit very loudly. Everything else I can do in my room, basically. Even a bassist, you just plug in a DI and that's fine. But drums, I'm sure it makes sense. Those are complicated, and they have to be, you got to do them right. Otherwise the whole mix is going to be screwed up. I've tried to fake that so many different ways and they've all failed. So this song that I've been working on, I put it down just because we were in quarantine. I didn't want to get a drummer together with an engineer and go over there, etc. But now I'm like, I just hit up the drummer today and was like, just record at your house, man. We'll make it work. I'm in too much of a rush, I guess. So he's just gonna track it on his own. It'll be a little dirty. We'll replace the kick and snare with electronic stuff, which seems to be what I do anyways. And so that one I'm going to try and finish as soon as possible.
You know, every once in a while you play a festival in front of 1,000 people and it's the greatest feeling in the world. And then you play 5 shows in a row where like you're begging your friends to come, and sometimes there's literally like the bartender. And we've all done that, and it's part of it, and it's like it makes those other ones that much more special. But like you have successful bands that are cover bands, and it's probably frustrating to see that your cover bands do so well, and then your own stuff is like, people only seem to care about other people's music.
It's upsetting until you realize that your music's just not good enough. And that's okay. Like, and that's the thing is, okay, so I have this one band called DJ No DJ, and we're like a 6-piece band that pretends to be a DJ. So we play electronic music, we don't stop between songs, and we don't have a set list, so we have to just go, right? And I can throw in my originals. Nobody's any the wiser. They think that we're just playing a bunch of covers. So you get a control group. You basically have a really good experiment to see, does this song work or not? One of two routes I think people go when they find out that something's an original tune is they think either I really want to like this because I want to support my friend, or they think this can't be any good because it's original and I would have heard it, etc. You know what I'm saying? So when you can eliminate those two possibilities and everybody just thinks it's a cover, sometimes those songs work, sometimes they fall flat and I stop playing them. But we've got maybe like 5 or so in that band that not only are they now on the same level as these other tunes as far as getting people excited, but sometimes they work a lot better than the cover tunes. That band is a helpful test of songs. It has to be dance songs for that particular band, but either way, that's kind of a fun aspect of it. Do you guys know who Talking Heads is? You do. I was in a band that played only Talking Heads songs, and
This must be the band.
Yeah, This Must Be the Band, and it was more successful than most bands. You can definitely say that for sure. It was like our job. We did it for a living for like, I don't know, 8 years or something like that. But I had to completely end the band. Even though the offers were getting higher, the number of people that were showing up was getting higher, and everything seemed to be going fine, but my soul was just not there when I played, and music was basically dead to me because I went this route that put way too much weight on the outcome. Meaning, like, if you decide, okay, I've got 4 hours in front of me, what am I going to do? Do I want to play the this song Burning Down the House that I've played about 1,500 times and I never want to hear ever again? Should I do that again?
Oh.
Well, I'll make some money doing it and I'll have a lot of fans there, so yeah, I'm just going to do it again. The outcome is weighted really heavily, like it would be really nice to make some money and get some fans, etc. So I'm going to play this thing that I think is really, I'm just bored with it at this point. I'm just bored. I can't do it anymore. If you go that route, your soul's going to leave your body. Music will be dead to you. And I don't know, maybe you'll be in that cover band for the rest of your life and you'll be a sad person, or any other thing. And maybe it's different for other people, but that's what it was for me. So I just had to quit that altogether. And basically, do you guys know the movie Indiana Jones? And you know the one where he's trying to cross over this chasm, it looks like, and he has to just go for it because there's an invisible walkway? You know what I'm saying? And he throws the dirt on it to see that it's there or whatever. But either way, that's what it felt like, to just like, I'm just going to like quit my job, even though it's working really well and almost everybody tells me I'm absolutely insane to stop this thing. I'm going to put 5 other people out of work, but I just knew I had to, and everything has worked out peaches since then, and I'm still recovering from that misuse of music, I guess is the phrase I would use, but I'm almost fully recovered. I'm starting to really enjoy music again. So again, I'm coming back to the same suggestion, which is outcome doesn't matter. You keep your head down and you just choose the next step, whatever it is. So when Michael was like, I lack the motivation or whatever, it sounded to me like he just had other ideas he wanted to try in something else. It wasn't music or something else. And that's great. Whatever your next impulse is, you just do that. And that's what was part of what was lost when I only did the Talking Heads thing was I had no more impulses to do anything. I didn't care. It had all been done before. So finding, and this is what I think is everybody's challenge is you're going to write a song. You've got a pen and a paper, and it's like your brain is going to be saying, well, I'd like something to be like this, and I'd like people to react to it this way, and I'd really like it if it was this or that. But all that stuff is garbage, and the only thing that matters is your next musical impulse. And if it's to write gibberish or no letters at all and just none of that matters. Whatever your next impulse is, that's the only thing you should do, and everything else you should completely disregard.
When you produce your own stuff, what do you start with in recording if you're doing all the parts?
So it depends. I just start with whatever my next impulse is. I have a new kid at home. She's like 2.5 or something. She's 2 3/4 today. I acted like I didn't know, but I already know that she's 2 3/4 on this day. Anyways, she was playing with some toy that I really liked, some sound that it produced. Just pull it in there and record it and then just start messing with it, and that's it. Sometimes it goes nowhere, and I have a bunch of sessions, Ableton sessions, that are just me trying something for 20 minutes. It's all recorded, but it's all garbage, and I'll never check it out ever again, and that's the end of it. And then sometimes it keeps wanting to be made and developed. But I will say that as far as what to start with, always a click, and not just a click. A lot of times I start with like a kick snare pattern on the quarter notes, just kick, snare, totally locked into a click. And I'll get rid of that later if I need to, but just basically like to make sure that you have this very, very sturdy backbone to start with is especially important because I want to move so fast that I basically just want to record something and loop it and then like be able to move that region to another part of the song in a second and see if it works in that part of the song or whatever. And if I don't have things properly locked into a grid, then everything's going to be wonky about it. Now, I will say that after that, the drums cannot be quantized at the end of the song. There's no way that I will tolerate, even for a total dance song, even for like a banger, 128 BPM, very normal dance song, I'm still gonna painstakingly record the kick snare pattern on a keyboard for 45 minutes, and then I'm gonna go through and find all those MIDI dots and move them around manually. I'm never gonna like quantize all of them together or anything like that, but I'm gonna spend that much time on every single aspect of everything. So that's why it gets to hundreds of hours really easily.
Like, at what point in the songwriting process do you usually like ask other people to listen or ask others for input or help?
That's such a good question because I don't know the answer. My wife is really helpful, and I think I've experienced this with a bunch of other songwriters that they have one person. You basically have to dial in what their feedback is going to be based on their biases and when they heard the song. And so basically like understanding where my wife is coming from helps me to decode whether I'm going to care about some piece of feedback she gave me or not. But more importantly, like she makes me really upset. And even though I know coming into it, I'm going to get upset and I want to be cool about it, I still get upset. And she's getting better at realizing that that's okay that I get upset and I'm not blaming her for it. But she gives me feedback. I tend to wait until I'm feeling really good about something, till I can't really think of any blaring problems right now, and then I can have her check it out. if you're asking somebody for feedback, if you've got the right person, they're not going to come back to you and be like, oh my God, this is amazing and it makes me feel all these things, you know? If you have the right person, they're basically gonna be like, you could fix this, this, and this. They're not there to determine whether it's good anymore. Like once you ask somebody for feedback, you're asking them to like edit your term paper, and they can basically tell you like, I really liked it or not, but all that stuff is kind of like, I think that's useless. Like either I like it or I don't, and that's going to be the end result. The song in my head basically stays the same the whole time, but I was cleaning up all this stuff to where maybe somebody else could also see or hear the vision I had to begin with. Honestly, when I'm collaborating with people, I don't give them anything but what I intend to be a final, because there's just too many times that I've been collaborating and been like, I've sent them something that's like, hey, you want to check this out and say what you think, even though I'm not done with it or whatever. And that's always failed. That has always been a bad idea because nobody sees the vision that I see. So whatever your vision is, you got to fully cultivate it. If you're like me, then you got to fully cultivate that thing before you ask people for feedback. And at that point, you know, be ready to get your feelings hurt. I'm sure you guys have all been through that at least 15 times or whatever. And that's part of the, if you're good at failing, then you'll seek those situations out where you fail. And that's what I think it takes.
That was really helpful. Thank you.
Sometimes I find myself like going back to the same place when I want to start to write a song. And so then like everything I try to write just winds up being the same idea over and over again. So do you have any like recommendations for?
First of all, I don't know what bands you guys really like or what groups you guys really like, but when I think of some of my favorite albums, the songs often sound very much the same. I'm not saying that sounding the same is good, and I'm not saying that sounding completely different from each other is good either, but like allow yourself to do the same thing over and over, because like that's not definitely wrong to do this. And what you think is the same thing over and over, I don't think anybody will agree with you completely on that. Everybody has their own taste on that. I do understand that feeling. And what I suggest is just go into it. Go into it and just write the same word. If your impulse was to do something and then another part of your brain went, nah, man, no, because it's going to be too similar or because it's too offensive or too anything, whatever the two is, maybe that part of your brain is going to win out, but maybe that's just your brain talking, and he's always going to say something, because that's what we've been taught since childhood, is to go, this is good, this is bad, this is better than this, okay, great, this is more than this. This is what they teach us in school, but that doesn't help with art, I don't think, and not as much as anybody thinks.
Thanks.
You're writing a song and you think it's really good, but all of a sudden you hit a wall. Like if you don't know what to add to it, or if you don't know where it goes like next, what do you do to get around that?
Well, first of all, do I need to finish it right now? Because if I don't, which I never do, or almost never, every once in a while I have some sort of assignment and I got to do it. But for the most part, nobody's knocking down my door for anything. I can do whatever I want. If I'm stuck, it usually means I don't want to do this anymore. So then I just do something else. Honestly, what my impulse is a lot of times is like walk around, go outside, walk, even in the middle of winter, just like walk a little bit. It tends to sort a lot of things out in my head. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but I feel my feeling toward walking is that it's a superpower we have, you know? People don't use it enough. But personally, for you, you're writing something and you hit a block, just try a bunch of garbage. Take the outcome, the pressure of the outcome out of the equation, and just mess around. Save your session, save it as a new one, and then by the time I'm at this song version 18, that's how many sessions I have, because every time I'm going to make a risky move that I might regret, I just save it and then save as a new one and just go to town on it. Just chop it up like a butcher and whatever, it doesn't matter. And maybe that one's a fail and go back to the old one, whatever. But just throw some darts at the wall.
And trying to like add something in, you also feel like you don't feel confident about it later too, and you feel like it's not the best thing you made too.
Well, that happens a ton, and I respect that. If I like something and then I come back later and my first reaction is like, I don't know, that's a respectable way to feel, and that's okay. It is tough when you're in school and they decide that imposing a deadline and a grade on something like music is a good idea. Having recovered from the school system for more than a decade, I realize now is the absolute insanity of all this, of almost everything they're doing, not just music, but in my opinion, every subject. I just wanted to learn about this one thing, but the teachers made it like this huge deadline, and I'm going to get a C or whatever, and that's going to affect what college I go to and then who I marry or whatever it is that everybody's thinking. That's insane. And it's especially insane with music. So as much as I understand you gotta turn stuff in, I know that. And that doesn't exactly end after school, but I think it changes drastically. I had a different album release that all I did was make one physical copy of the album and throw it off a cliff. That was the last album. It was called Things to Throw Off a Cliff. I made one album, and I tried to throw it off the cliff. The cliff blew it. There was wind, and it blew back in my face.
No way.
If you want the best illustration of what it's like to be a musician for a living, that's it. You try to get rid of your music, but you can't. But I'm making it look pretty bleak, but there's a reason that I spend literally every waking moment that's available to me on this. And I've been doing that for 15 years or something. I know I'm painting it as like it's difficult, which it very much is, especially to keep people's attention when you're competing with the entire world. But if you get on this path, you're choosing the hardest thing you could possibly think of doing. At least that's what I was doing. It's the biggest challenge I've ever had, and it's still ongoing, etc. But that's not bad. That is a challenge, not even a little bit. Some people put a tightrope between two buildings up 14 stories or whatever. That doesn't achieve anything at all. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. But it's a challenge. They wanted it. They wanted the challenge. So it was great meeting all of you.
Awesome.
And
Thank you so much.
amazing questions.
Thanks.